Welcome back, everybody, to the LCS Challengers League. We are here for our second best of two of the last day of Week 5. I'm Grapes, once again, joined by Deserex and Cubby. And next up on the list, Fear versus Disguise. This is going to be a really, really fun matchup.
That's it? It's just gonna be a fun matchup?
Well,
we got
some other stuff to look at as well. I mean, if you guys didn't have anything to say, we could just throw the rosters right now, I guess. Sure. All right, let's talk about Cincinnati Fear then. Philip, Perry, Shochi, Minui, JJ. You know, some veterans getting added to this core that has, looked solid, but maybe not finding the same level of success as they did in spring.
You know, it's a team right now that's looking for a level of consistency to come through, because even if you look at some of the games they're having currently, they're splitting games against some of the top teams. You know what they're also splitting games against? Some of the lower end teams as well. So we know the talent is there. Shochi's been having a real standout year so far, especially in this latest split. It's just, man, the consistency issues, they do need to be addressed over on Cincinnati Fear.
I think part of the consistency issues are actually champ pools, because every player has a massive champion pool in their own role. And it feels like this is a team that almost has a different approach to draft like every week. And I think that is something that has actually been good and bad for them. And I'm kind of curious to see where they settle going into playoffs, because it feels like this is a team whose identity is they don't have an identity, and they will play something different very often.
We've seen a lot of different play styles even throughout the weeks after week. So I mean, draft is always really fun when we watch this team play, and I'm excited to get into this one. But their opponents today going to be Disguised. Speaking of cores that, haven't met that same level of success that we saw in the spring split. We got Fake, got Tomio, Young, Meech, and Zazel. Just not necessarily at that #1 spot that they, were in the spring split as part of them were on Cloud9.
Yeah, it feels like with this roster, again, for me, Disguise is also somewhat trying to find their footing and their identity. I think that when we've seen Disguised at their best, it has been when Young is empowered to play up and play forward. But if that's not the case, we have seen Young fall behind a little bit in the laning phase. I think that this is a team, to me, that interacts very differently with the map when they have mid-prio versus when they do not have mid-prio.
And this is a very exciting matchup, not only for the players that we have on our screens, but also for the implications that it might have towards seeding in playoffs. So as we take a look at, once again, the standings that we have updated, of course, to include some of the games that we have already gone through. But DSG and Fear, just one game apart from each other, sitting at that top half. And Cubby, there's been this conversation, specifically around Cincinnati Fear, about where they stand and how they are, in relation to the rest of the league.
Yeah, so, our wonderful, co-caster and peer, Joshi, he's actually said that Fear, they are the bar, right? They are, something that we refer to as maybe, the gatekeepers that we have here in the league. But hey, we got another little PowerPoint to get through as, hold on, we don't need that. We need this. All right, here we go. Guys, what is death? All right, this is, what is death? This is Fear, right? This is kind of like their mascot,
Yes.
Well,
that is.
What we have is, the standings. You can see where Fear is at. There's a bit of a gap going into the day between them and AoE. So Fear, for me, they're kind of like the gatekeepers of the rest of the standings, right? You have to beat Fear in order to get into the top 4. In order to, get into heaven or hell. Who knows? But
Are you saying the bottom 5 teams are in hell?
That's, maybe. Who knows? It's actually the bottom 2, but there is a bit of a gap. I'm just trying to play in a logo. Come on. Now, the bar. Fear's record versus the top 3 teams, they are 2-8. Against the rest, the bottom 5, they're actually 12-4. So, a lot of success for Fear against teams that are worse than them in the standings. They haven't really been able to topple our top dogs yet. In a way, they have somewhat been the gatekeeper. Now, as sometimes, there is the question, what happens when we die? What is death? How do we beat death? Now, what I'm going to say is that Fear, they like death a lot. Now, this was their series yesterday against Supernova. And this is one of the examples of Fear, as they won the first game in the biggest stomp that we have seen all split, and then they dropped the second one. All right, this is kind of the Jekyll and Hyde that we've seen of Cincinnati Fear. But for the side of Fear, you can't beat death, but you can beat death through life sometimes. And the more often you learn to do it, the more life there will be. Your life is your life. Know it while you have it. It's a great quote. And Fear, they played you know, like they were beating death through life. Look at this scoreboard. It was 40-6. It was an absolute massacre on the Rift. They were living their best lives, but, you know, you got to be able to pull that through till the end. And, you know, sometimes for Cincinnati Fear, if you want to have life, you got to beat death. You got to beat their logo, right? You got to beat this team, the Grim Reapers themselves. So if you want to get into the top 4, going up against Cincinnati Fear, you just have to be better, and you just have to win it.
Oh my gosh.
Right? So, Disguise today, they're going to be trying to actually take down Cincinnati Fear. As you got to be better than this. And, I mean, their jungler can put their leg behind their head. So, I don't know how Tomio can topple that. And I don't know how Toast is going to beat that either. But, hey, just win it. You know, you can do it on the side of Disguise. Now, they are above them in the standings, but if they 0-2 today, then Fear gets to put another one outside the gate. So, see if that ends up happening.
So maybe the gate moves a little bit if
maybe. Who knows?
they end up winning. Okay, I see. I will say, going back to that stat graphic real quick, if you go just to this week's games, they are 1-1 against the top teams and 1-1 against the bottom teams. So, yeah, the narrative, you got to stretch it out a little bit for it to make sense. But Erica, you look a little bit distraught right here. What's going on?
What? What did I just witness? I'm a little bit lost right now.
It was a bit everywhere, you know, but we got there.
Slowly turned into a philosophy class at some point. I don't have the best, I guess, rebuttal to this because I didn't know he was going to do a whole presentation on it.
What happens when we die,
essentially, this was the bar right here, right? This was the bar. This is what Fear have been doing lately. And I think this is an accurate representation because they're not breaking the bar, they're bending the bar. Because you look over at the top side, right? This is where Team Liquid is. Half of Team Liquid would be covered. Split. Oh, look, down here, Supernova. Half of Supernova split. I think a better measure of what the bar is becoming, at least in the second round robin, has actually been Disguised. If you look at some of their latest performances, at least coming into the second round robin, right? They got 2-0'd by FlyQuest, they 2-0 Taco, they go split with AoE. I think AoE is a team that you can argue is starting to make a bid for the middle of the pack, if not a little bit higher, if they can finish off on a higher note. Then you go look at what else they're doing, right? 2-0 against Maryville University. They're basically replacing the spot that Fear once was, and now taking that inconsistent performance and making it consistent in the leaderboards. I think if we were to take away everything that happened in round robin number 1, we have that argument now established for Fear. I know, for DSG, excuse me, I know Josh would argue with me to the holy high heavens on this one. I don't have a philosophical little quote to bring up with it as well. I didn't realize Cubby was going to go this damn hard, but that's my presentation. Here's my bar.
So
this is Fear.
Hey, I was asked to bring it. You know, Grapes is on the broadcast. I'm trying to impress him. You know, just finally yesterday, kind of. It
was well done.
I had to bring the philosophy. You know.
Yeah, we got some things to think about. Again, playoff implications on the line right here. The race for 4th place if Fear are able to take this one in a 2-0 fashion, but draft is ready for the first game. Fear versus Disguised. Gentlemen, take it away.
I don't want to take it away anymore. I got upstaged on that PowerPoint, Cubby.
Oh,
man,
come on, man.
How quickly did you put that together? Was that during the interview?
During the interview?
The mirror interview.
Oh God, no. That was before today. I'm just trying to actually tweet it out now. I can't tweet it out, unfortunately.
Thank you for the quotes on top of that. I mean,
I should have been able to. You know, I really should tweet this out beforehand, but we're just gonna have to wait till now.
Getting into this matchup now and focusing down into the drafts. I'm going to be watching 2 lanes. I'm going to be watching the solo lanes more than anything else. You had mentioned it before, Cubby. Young has been on a little bit of a slump in terms of his performances, but you know who hasn't? Shochi. Shochi's been knocking some of these games out of the park without really much of an argument, to say the least. Shochi has bumped up in performance this latest summer. Every season I've seen this guy, he keeps improving, he keeps getting better, and I think this is one of the more highlight seasons for Shochi thus far.
Yeah, I think Shochi continues to demonstrate that he has a pretty big champion pool, but also I think unlike other splits, he's showing a little bit more proficiency at those, and it's even gotten wider. And also there's been more dominant carry performances for Shochi. Before, like last split on Fear, it kind of felt like he was just a part of this 5-man that was so good for Fear. Now it feels like he's more of a standout, a little bit more of a star on this team, as a lot of the team is supporting things around Shochi at the moment. So, and those bans coming out from Disguise, all aimed at Shochi in a way, as his Kai'Sa, LeBlanc, and Tristana have all been fantastic. So even they see how well Shochi's performing as well.
Yeah, when Tristana came back into the meta, I was kind of surprised Shochi didn't jump onto it right away. Actually had to watch a little bit of what was going on in the space and was like, oh wait, my baby is doing well again? Let's pop off on it, and pop off Shochi has. Definitely still a lot more left in the wheelhouse. Said they did ban away both that Kai'Sa and LeBlanc, but that still leaves the Ahri, something that Shochi's capable of playing that's still on the map. As first picks coming in now, got to start tunneling in onto those. Perry is happy to take the Sejuani, play that engager role. Same thing for Tomio this time. Locks in the Maokai.
I'd be surprised this is paired up with a Renekton for the side of Fake God. Also a Deny from this Renekton Sejuani duo. Expect to see Philip go for something like that Jax, something that I think Philip's been very comfortable with. This does can help you defend. It also does pair very well with the Sejuani, and then it is back to a true and trusted pick on the side of Cincinnati Fear Deserex, and that is going to be the Seraphine, a pick that was banned away from them pretty much all of the spring split, and something that one left up Fear is willing to play, and Manui especially is willing to flex between him and Shochi, so we'll see where that one ends up going.
I do like that for Fear, more specifically because they're grabbing at least a little bit of show for their bottom lane earlier on. I have noticed when Fear allow their bot lane pool to get pinched, that's when Minui tends to have a rough time. A lot of teams have been attacking that. I know Minui's been forced out of Misfortune a few times, and that was really devastating. Especially it was against Disguised, who really put that in the dirt the first time they went at it in the round robin. Final lock-in is going to come in for Meech. We'll grab the Marksman, going for Aphelios.
And I actually want to see if Fear take away something like the Milio here. I think that that is still a really strong pairing. Something that has worked really well for Disguise. Meech is 5-2 on this Aphelios. One of his better picks. We always praised Meech for his reaction speed and his spacing as a marksman. Those are the two things that really stuck out from Meech's gameplay that we've seen. So Milio helps enable both of those things with the kit that she has, and that will be denied from Fear over on the Zeyzal, as that, again, has been a combo that DSG has used really well this split.
Bans going towards supports for the moment. What else DSG look to take away? They are going to go for the solo lanes right there. Taking that away from Shochi Phillip. Yone off the map. One more ban to come out from Cincinnati Fear before they start locking in where the Seraphine is going to go. 14 seconds to get that.
Could just be an Ahri ban, because that is something that Young is really comfortable on. Something that I don't think Fear is going to be looking for with the Sejuani and a Seraphine showing. And that could be a nice hit on the Young's champion pool as well. Relegate him to something else. As instead, actually going to be the Braum. So, main engage already showing for the side of DSG with the Maokai. Braum pairs well with the Aphelios as well, and can also stuff that Seraphine ultimate. So, do like that takeaway coming out from Fear against DSG.
And DSG going to show their bottom lane outright. Renata getting locked in for Zeyzal.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is interesting, because the way that you usually beat Renata is through Enchantresses. And when you have Seraphine, if you play a double Enchantress bot lane, it is a little bit tricky / tough to actually try and beat. But this actually would lend me to believe that if they want to put Seraphine bot, they pair it up with the Senna, is where I was going. So now you can really outrange Aphelios. But looks like it's going to be the Ashe instead. So still a lot of that power in terms of range and zoning, as Ashe can use those volleys to keep everyone at DSG at bay, which is something that DSG will struggle with in some of these team fights. And I like this as a response into the Renata, as Renata takes away your ability to really all in on the side of Fear. So more tools for Fear to say, hey, we're going to play a little bit at bay. And now we have what looks to be a blind pick Zed for Shochi. Now, I've been on this new Zed build. Shochi has played a game of it. The new build is you go Ravenous Hydra into Black Cleaver, and you max W second. And the idea is that you just have shadows living throughout team fights. You get 3 down with your ultimate, and you can get 2 rounds of Qs. So, a lot of power now for Shochi in that mid game with these team fights, and he's have the ability to interact with everyone on the side of DSG as Young takes his silence into it. So, pretty spicy draft that we have here, Deserex.
Yeah, this is really nice. Shochi has played this. It was against Evil Geniuses and was victorious into that aspect. I like what we got coming out of Cincinnati Fear. This is pretty classic to the way Cincinnati Fear play. They got a lot of utility coming into the bottom lane. You were talking about the volley, keeping them at bay. Yeah. Don't forget, Hawkshot is a good way to spot out the enemy jungler and catch this early pathing coming out from Tomio. A lot of answers for Fear.
It's going to be Ashe support for JJ. So, seeing that they don't have any magic damage, going to make sure that Seraphine is going to be that carry. When Renata was first out, Ashe was actually the answer into Renata. So reaching back a little bit, JJ, to find that counter. Important to note, Young, he's 4-0 on the Sylas, actually. So, 5th game coming on in. I will say, he has a Seraphine ult and an Ashe ult to grab. That's really good for the side of the skies. As that could be a big game changer, but could be set behind in lane if that Sejuani does make some appearances mid. So, a lot of eyes on the mid lane here as Shochi and Young taking volatile matchups.
Yeah, I think the mid lane is just going to be the big spot to watch. I think Young has had some of his best performances on Sylas, not just this split, but last split as well. Whenever he's on these melee mages, that's when we start to see Young have those highlight reel moments. I think Meech is on a good champion as well to get Disguise to at least to this promised land that they're trying to get to. The team that was promised to be on a lot of people's radars, #1 in the league, but inconsistency issues, a lot of those coming down to ties at the very first half of the round robin. Now looking to clean that up. Look at this, spotting out Zeyzal in the jungle. They're able to get a root onto Zeyzal. Zeyzal not in the right spot to be. Does get a handshake off, but the Arctic Assault with the chase. Followed through from Shochi. First blood for Cincinnati Fear.
2 flashes burned here by Fear to get first blood is JJ. He's going to look for the W and then fill up.
Right there it is, and he doesn't realize he was waiting the flash forward from JJ. Doesn't get the kill. 3 flashes now burnt from Cincinnati Fear, as before the minions are even on the rift, they're fighting Cubby.
First blood does go over to that Sejuani, so guaranteed to have a bombies after the first clear, if Sejuani does choose to base. And JJ gonna find that ward. He's swept out here by Zeyzal, but still the poke damage still coming in. As Nui and JJ, this is a pick. Again, Fear has played a lot of Seraphine. They know how to play this champion, how to abuse it. And I'd love to see them getting up in the face of DSG early. As JJ will be on the back foot a little bit now for this lane. Not having flash is very dangerous. Makes you a very appealing target for enemy junglers.
Or an appealing target in general. Ashe doesn't have much mobility, and DSG want to capitalize on that. One more auto to seal the deal, and Meech able to take one back.
Answer from DSG. As the kills onto Meech. A-OK. This has been a hectic early game. Oh, boy.
Yeah, what's going on, man?
We get more action. All right. Well, JJ connects with this, and it's just a guess from Manui, but he hides it in the wall. So Zeyzal not able to react. Does start with the Q. As Perry wasn't able to get there. Shochi actually started Shadow. That's quite the start for Zed, level 1, but was able to pick up that kill. And then he's got Goofy. They ended up getting Young's flash in the end, but flashes burned everywhere now, as the only flashes left on the rifts are really, there are 4 left. 2.5 minutes into the game, Deserex. That's the action we're looking for.
Yeah, this is what we wanted. Both these teams fighting it out. Even with Shochi taking Shadow first. It's the mind game, Cubby. Pop Shadow right in front of them, and you just spam dance.
JJ just hit level 2. Has good volley back. Nui and JJ will be trying to stand up a little bit. As this bot lane shoving in for the side of DSG. Perry has elected to skip over his Krugs as he is actually 5 camping. 4 camping as he skips over the blue towards this top side. Fake God, that wave is shoving away from the Renekton. Philip gonna re-engage here as both junglers come to get involved. DSG, they have a level on each jungler. Tomio is spotted walking in. See if they end up fishing.
And Fake God had just used Slice and Dice, so that's on cooldown. Arctic Assault comes through, able to get the stun, following it through with the chain of crowd control. Phillips need to get there quickly. Ooh, Counter-Strike gets the stun onto Tomio. Shochi is here, trying to clean it up. One more auto for the mid lane. There it is. No, Philip scumbags it away. Still, Fear finding the play in the top lane.
Shochi getting involved. He's going to lose a wave mid for that. I would have liked if they would have given that over to Shochi, but
I thought they were
Jax,
gonna, yeah.
Yeah, Jax getting ahead in this matchup will be okay. As with the Zed build, you also go for TP. This is not the, assassin Zed that we're used to seeing. It is very much AoE team fight, shred your armor Zed. Now, they didn't pair this up with a marksman, which I usually like because the Hydra, Cleaver, and Zed's kit, the way it works, you can pretty much apply full stacks of Black Cleaver instantly to whoever you combo in a team fight. Really good for anyone that's going to be doing physical damage on the side of Fear. But of course, opting for that Seraphine to have magic damage in that role. A bit of a creative draft Fear, who have had a lot of different approaches this split.
With that gold going on to Philip, I do want to say, I think Philip's been having an okay season. We had a lot of criticisms back when he was on FlyQuest, was with that roster for quite some time. But with Fear, it does feel like he's taking a little bit more of an initiative. We saw that very early on at the first stages of the round robin. And now still trying to take that lead forward, having that first kill for Cincinnati Fear on this top side. But it's a tall task. It's still Fake God that you're facing off with.
And Fake God's Renekton has finally taken a few losses here this split, because it was undefeated last split. 5-3, as I believe last split it was 11-0. But still to be feared no matter what the record is. Fake God plays his champion very, very well. I remember, I think the first game he played, Fake God played Renekton this summer. I checked the Toast co-stream, and he was like, Fake God can only play Renekton from now on. This is the only champion he's allowed to play, because he just absolutely dominated that game. But at the moment, going to be on the back foot, as Jax has a red buff, and that's not very fair for the Renekton.
Perry putting his attention into the bottom lane. At the same time, the engagement has come out from DSG. Meech, the payback's not going to get you anything. Can't bail out of that one. Minui grabs the kill onto DSG's marksman.
Great angle from Perry, as Fake God, he's got this.
Ruthless Predator comes out. Flash from Philip. Doesn't have much mana as well, so has to concede this over to Fake God. Same time, Tomio might be eyeballing this top side.
And he did see Tomio walking in, so Philip has to sack this wave. Doesn't have access to TP either, so that gank bot for Perry going to be made expensive by Fake God's Renekton on the top side and Tomio showing up. Well played. Ooh, they actually hawk-shotted to check if Tomio was there or not. So Philip thinks he's in the clear.
Ooh, but Perry's also all over here. So hops onto Tomio.
He could kill Tomio.
Yeah, Philip can rotate down here. Does have more mana to work with, more health to work with. Goes for the chase onto Fake God. Counter-strike onto him. Meanwhile, Deathmark comes out. Shochi trying to get the solo against Young, but Young will get the better of that trade. That's going to end up on a 1-for-1. Mid and top both fighting it out. Tomio escapes. Gets a little escort there from the victorious Young.
Would love to see how Young pulled off that 1v1. It looked like he used the Zed ultimate that he yoinked to actually dodge out on a triple shuriken from Shochi. Very clean. Shout out to our observers for making sure that we highlight this one as volatile melee matchup. Young finds the opener. Shochi's trying to set up the triple shadows here. So manages to find the double E. But then when he goes for the Q, Young finds the ult on the Shochi, dodging out of all that damage. Make sure it's reapplied. He flashes back to the beginner. Really well played by Young there. Really, really nice solo kill.
Yeah, there's a reason we highlight his Silas in particular. Back when he was on Golden Guardians, that was one of the high points of Golden Guardians, him being able to pull off plays like that. Gets it on a Shochi, who's been a star for Cincinnati Fear. So that's a good momentum swing coming out for DSG.
I remember talking with Prismo when he was on that roster. He's like, dude, we have a rookie finding angles like this when he was playing Silas, like stealing a Mumu ults and finding flanks. He's like, that's something I wouldn't expect from my mid laners usually, and it's his first split in Challengers. Like, it's pretty insane.
And don't forget, Young did have that substitution where he ended up on the Golden Guardians main roster. You know, coming out from that, he was saying, like, I feel like I can hang with a lot of these players over here. So it's motivated him even more to try and make these standout plays. And you got to respect that coming out from Young, someone who wants to put in that work.
That was a big part of Young this season. He actually turned down the option to be a substitute on Golden Guardians LCS because he wanted to compete. Took less salary to make sure that he was playing and competing in this roster. You know, Golden Goose said that fired him up going into this season. Definitely something that I think Young deserves a lot of respect for. He's wanting to prove himself on the Rift, and hey, has a nice lead to start off this game, and DSG's going to need it as we revisit this game. First Herald taken by the side of Cincinnati Fear. That Croc is down in the top side early. That matchup doesn't really get better for him as things go late into the Jax. As Jax can kind of wail on you to death if he gets ahead.
Bonks of Doom.
Yeah. Trades going on. That Rift Herald being picked up does almost net 3 points from each solo. So I'd say overall DSG okay giving that one over, and Fear is going to look for a big Rift play to try and answer.
Does look like they want to find it in the top side. Perry over in the brush right now. Fake God kind of sniffs this out. So instead, yeah, Recall goes through. Fake God playing rather patiently over into this top lane. Tomio still headed in that direction. You do have some pings coming out from the side of DSG who do want to play more towards that top side at the moment.
Yeah, Perry has that Herald equipped. Curious to see where he ends up putting that one. We have Shoshi stepping up, and that's the type of trade you get to face in the Silas when you do step up, is he just W's in your face, gets his health back, takes away yours, and that feels bad. As I gotta say, this Zed for Shoshi looks like he's actually going for a different build. Not going to be the Hydra into the Black Cleaver that we're used to seeing. Looks to me like he could be going for that Duskblade on the Zed, so more focus on the Assassin version.
Finding those assassinations would be nice to get it onto, well, Young for one, but Meech more than anyone else. That is kind of tricky, though. Bailout is available. That's going to make these death marks require some more delicate timing if Shochi wants to be effective.
This is the timer for Fake God to actually look as... Oh, nice ECA.
Oh. Yeah, Enchanted Crystal Arrow landing in the mid lane. Shochi looking to take down Young. Will be able to get some vengeance in the mid lane right there. His first kill of the game acquired off that arrow.
Good ECA coming out from JJ as that connects onto the Silas. Free kill going over to the side of Cincinnati Fear. See if they can snowball that into anything more. Herald is in the inventory here of Sejuani and looks to be actually expiring rather soon. Oh, wait, no, that's right. That's the bug.
Gotcha. Just like Shochi. Got that Eclipse. Enough gold to get that back and come back. So
Eclipse gives you more pen overall later into the game. I still want to see if it's the Cleaver second, as I do really like the Zed build in theory. He should be maxing W second, and then again the idea is that you just get to lay down a lot of AoE damage in Armor Shred in team fights, which is why we see the Hydra Cleaver given the interaction those two items have together as well. Something that we've seen even Zamuno use on the Ribbon, because that was two items he built in that game, but Shochi instead going full Assassin. And a pick that, God, he even played back when he was on Taco Gaming Desirect too. You gotta remember those days.
I was a big fan of the some of the performances we got out of Taco Gaming and Shochi, of course. I remember their big upset was the second qualifiers in summer, where they took down 100 Thieves next, which was the most dominant team in amateur at the time.
Won.
Yeah, they got the win off of that.
They
Very
won
impressive stuff.
They won playing stuff like Draven, Pike, Zed mid, you know. Do I recommend it at home? No. But did Taco Gaming find wins with it? No Qs. Yes.
One of the greatest wins. As Enchanted Crystal Arrow not going to land from Young. It's still that away from JJ. So no play to be found by DSG. Harry going to put down the Rift Herald and focus down into this mid lane. A little bit of chip damage onto Tomio. Uses a Twisted Advance to get closer to that tower. As the hostile takeover goes through, Enchanted Crystal Arrow back off cooldown. Death Mark coming out from Shochi. Doesn't have enough damage just yet. Will not get the pop, but gets splatted by the tree. Tomio takes the kill, and it's all disaster as 3 fall. Cincinnati Fear falling apart right there. Only able to get 1 back in. Young wants some more. Here comes Meech on the flank. Puts down the Chakrams. Gets another kill. 4 falling now. DSG team fight win.
Bloody mid lane fight as DSG comes on top because Shochi overplayed his hand in the top side, and a solo kill for Fake God top into this Jax.
Fake God able to fight it out. We'll get a replay on that, but first we got to look at how this all unfolded. They thought they had a chance on Tomio.
Tomio gets low okay, first off, see what happens here. Oh, looks like he popped the ult. May not have the Counter-Strike. No flash, though, on the side of this Renekton. We got replays everywhere. This is actually across the map. It's a pure game. What are we expecting? Young able to get that W off, which made sure he survived the death mark, and then Tomio follows through. Philip, he burned the Counter-Strike, and Fake God, that's a freebie. Yeah, that's an oopsie there from Philip, so nice find for Fake God. He got a bonus plate off that one. And then Madui was the big difference here. Honestly, I think Perry, if in a raw fight, could win that one. Renata W was down. But Perry ends up getting attacked by Meech. They trade out for Young, but Meech gets some kills, and DSG come out winning out on the play across the map.
They'll use that win to get positioning onto this dragon. Zazel You always got to watch out for him because he's been really good at stuffing a lot of the flanks that have come out from other teams. Did it real big on Cincinnati Fear the first time these two teams faced off. But now, Disguised, open season for this Drake. They'll be able to get their second Drake. And we're going to have an ocean map.
Good pick up here for the side of Disguised, as bonus resistance is not bad. Actually going into a comp, it's going to be a bit lower on the damage profile, missing that traditional marksman moving forward.
Still see trying to skirmish over onto this top side. Philip, it's a tough task to take on Fake God, but decent job so far. Now ultimate stolen away. Young getting caught out by a chain of CC.
Oh,
it's still not
big.
enough to take a Minui. Barely able to get him on the back end. Now underneath the tower, you got to be quick. Deathmark comes out looking to take out Tomio. Out comes the bailout. Tomio can't get an assist in time. Shochi's able to get it. Now Philip on the runaway gets taken down by the tower. Fake God holding the line. This Gator looks devastating. Looking for the Gator roll. Here it comes. Slice and dice forward. Only pops a Q to get more AoE damage in. The route found by Minui, but Fake God, too scary is this Gator.
Honestly, surprised that fight went in favor of Cincinnati Fear, given how big the Nature's Grasp into the hostile takeover was for the side of DSG, but Young went down very early in that fight. Ate the Enchanted Crystal Arrow from JJ, who has been very on point with those ultimates coming out from this Ashe Desirux. That was the big difference in that one, as Cincinnati Fear will now take a Rift Herald off the back of this play. They got to take it quick, though. This is spotted on vision. And DSG, they have that Nature's Grasp up rather soon. They could look to collapse.
Yeah, everyone from Disguise is coming right now.
Perry's on the wrong side.
Tomio leading in. Perry walks away. This is going to forfeit Rift Herald right over to Disguised. They say, thank you for the leash, buddy, and they'll walk right out.
Yeah, no one helping Perry at the start of that one. Ends up coming back to bite them. DSG, if I'm them, yeah, throw this down immediately. Here did not base off that last play, so DSG did. They're able to now play with an item advantage and tempo on the map, as they're going to take down the second Herald, now find a pick.
Yeah, they're going right after Perry. Perry pulled back in thanks to the charm. The chain of CC is brutal, and it will chain him down. Now Philip hops onto Meech. Doesn't have the Counter-Strike stun to work with Tomio onto Shochi. Shochi has to use the shadows to get away, and DSG are just picking apart Cincinnati Fear.
Black Cleaver not quite there yet for the Zed, who is going for that WMAX second build. This mid-game spike will be big for Fear between the Seraphine and the Zed and the Jax, but at the moment, DSG doing a nice job of playing defense and playing around the map and their tempo. I like that Herald drop mid. They didn't get the outer, but they were able to find kills to go all the way back to the start of this fight. Young taken down rather low early as that Sejuani all went wayward. Minui connected with the Encore as Young was taken out in that fight. Tomio gets taken out by the Deathmark, but man, I thought Fake God was going to be able to actually run this one through, but the peel between the Sejuani and the Seraphine and a good flash from Perry gets him out of there. Fake God didn't feel like they could push too much forward. More forward after that play. It didn't have anything left in the tank. Who had the E under a turret. DSG able to at least equalize things, and we had a rather close game early on. I feel like DSG over time are favored, given that they do have that traditional marksman. But this mid game for Fear still could be very strong if they continue to take fights and push the pace. Flashes being down for DSG are very deadly when you're going up against a comp like Ashe, Seraphine, Zed that has so much pick potential.
Yeah, that pick potential, more off of that Enchanted Crystal Arrow that we're going to see JJ throw out a lot. I'm actually curious what the cooldown is, if our observer can just highlight that right now, because that's only going to get lower and lower, and you're going to start these arrows, you're going to start to see these arrows pretty much come off cooldown as JJ continues to look for picks. And see if Cincinnati Fear can really utilize that, because we have a minute until the dragon does spawn, and already Cincinnati Fear have the inside track onto the river. They need to hold on to this if they want to contest with DSG.
God could be under siege. It's really tough to dive a Renekton, but Seraphine comps, if Minui were to rotate, could do it. DSG at the moment rotating to try and defend this, as they will continue to eat volleys from the side of JJ. 45 seconds till this dragon spawns. Maokai will help them take a little bit more space, as those saplings are tough to defend. Zed does a decent job of dealing with it, though. Can burn a shadow to run away from them, which is worth it when you're going up against the AP Maokai. You can see Fear having trouble taking more than just the river here, going up against those saps.
JJ, those volleys do establish a pretty good line for Cincinnati Fear to continue holding out into this river. They can't get poked out too much by it. Reminder, JJ does have some Pretty good ability haste to work with to keep those volleys spammed out. Anyway, pushing in the wave over in the mid lane, Cincinnati Fear. It's a long setup for this dragon, but now the dragon spawning out. Time for this. Time to further take.
They're going to give no contest coming out from DSG, so no soul point for them. They're going to fully commit onto the top side. Phil trying to get this crab away. Will do so successfully.
Nice.
As top outer turret will fall in favor of Young. It's a trade across the map. DSG maybe waiting a little bit. I feel like time does them a favor. I think if they can get the Radiant Virtue on Tomio, maybe a second item on Young, and the big difference being that third item on the Aphelios, that might be the timer where then DSG looks to push really hard.
I mean, so far, Meech has done pretty well to farm. Has a lot of kills to his name. So this Aphelios is getting going. Is going to be working towards that third item pretty soon. That scaling really working in favor of DSG the longer and longer this game does go. Right now, Cincinnati Fear, it's going to be a while before we see another movement on the map. There's not really that much to fight over, so playing towards the side lanes is going to be the name of the game.
Curious that we don't have Chochi going for that Hydra, because I still think the interaction between that and Cleaver is really strong with the Zed. So, trying to find as much armor shred as it can with the Cleaver and the Eclipse. No one, though, again, really benefit off of it from Fear. I like Zed paired up with this build with a traditional marksman. You can take advantage of that Cleaver being fully stacked. But Fear trying to get creative. And hey, Manui Seraphine. It's been a winning strategy for Fear always. And it's in good shape this game. Sitting at 3-0-3 and that Cosmic Drive now completed. So one more spells will be coming out from Manui. And if you are able to heal up this big group from Fear, it could be nice. But Radiant Virtue is in for the side of Tomio. And with Zanya's being really close to being done for Young, I think those are the two things that DSG are waiting for until they can really start to take fights to Fear once again.
And that's the good thing working in favor of DSG right now is they're not hard-pressed to really try and go for a fight outright, but it's Fear who are going to be looking for him, and they're looking for it onto Fake God. Two big ultimates used to stun up the Croc, but he will get away nonetheless.
See how hard DSG push off this, as Harry's going to get the bad news that there's a lot of members over here, but no Nature's Grasp coming out from Tomio quite yet.
Instead, they're going to chase away both the jungler and the marksman. Almost wanted to say support right there, always gets you. But cutting Fear away from being pretty much a 5-stack. At the same time, you got the side lane push coming out from both Philip and Young down in the bottom lane. Young is going to take that recall, so let's see if he gets over towards that hourglass you were mentioning earlier, Cody.
It's rather close. You can see the game state's really slowed down. I think this is good for DSG. Slower this game is played, you just want to make sure that Meech has those summoner spells up, because if Meech is allowed to run rampant in the fight, that's going to be what gets DSG over the edge in terms of damage. So I like what DSG has done. I feel like they're playing this smart, just saying, hey, these are the food items we want. So, okay, Shoshi's in there.
Yeah, Deathmark. Unfortunately, it's on top of the ultimate of Tomio, so gets rooted up nonetheless. Tomio will get the kill.
Well done from Tomio and DSG, as Tomio knew his limits there. Flash Twisted Advance gets the Zed. 30 seconds to the Death Chamber. Does have access to that and power TP, but won't be able to shut down this Baron if DSG continue to burn it, as Meech already has that thing down to half, and here we go.
All right, flank onto Young. Young hops over the wall. Encore going to land onto absolutely nothing. Fake God able to back up. Hostile takeover goes on, but the Baron is being pressured. Parry to about half health. Philip deep into this fight right now. Goes right onto Young. The Turo Baron buff getting picked up by DSG, but Young, he wants to find more. Gonna use that hourglass. Fake God goes in and finds JJ. Able to take him apart with that Gator roll, dismantling the limbs of Cincinnati Fear. A teleport coming through from Fear, but it's far too late.
And I love the discipline from DSG there. I feel like a lot of teams in this league, they would see the Renekton get engaged upon and go help the Renekton. No, stick on the Baron. It was a 5v4. Fake God bought so much space and time, given how tanky he is on this Croc. And the fact that DSG stuck to that Baron, I think, is what enabled them to win that fight in the end.
A great play for DSG, realizing when their spikes were, how strong they were. Even that hourglass paying its own dividends. Yeah. Young popping that into that last fight, but that was DSG having the heads up of when they can take these fights. And boy, did they take it to Cincinnati Fear. 35 seconds before the Dragon does come up, and pressing the issue now for Fear.
Really solid trigger pull on Tomio to start things off, but then good patience from DSG in the back half. Is now just going to burn to find some space and make sure this turret goes the way of DSG as ECA goes wide from JJ. Here we go, encore, nice juke.
Ooh, Tomio able to juke away with the twisted advance, but still taking in so much damage. Deathmark goes out. You need to find an assist to get it through, but here is Fake God. Will brute force the kill right on back to DSG.
Oh.
Now Perry in the front line, but here comes Philip. Wants to get a leap strike in. Counter-strike going to expire. No crowd control found. And here comes that Turo Baron empowered push from DSG. Instead, going to back off to the Dragon.
Almost found a turn there, but Perry's ult went backwards, doing what Young did earlier. I guess they're evening things out, right? One each gets the fire and ult behind them. As it was honestly close to the turn from Fear, and they still have Seraphine to kind of help sustain everyone up. No, it's not the Moonstone build. Doesn't matter when you're Seraphine. That double W does so much. You see Fear topped off. Now they can just kind of fish with poke around from Shoshi, and there's no smite on the board, so see if Fear wants to actually brute force this.
You gotta be fast. Tomio is walking down.
Yeah. Oh, this is a good angle from Young.
Ooh, look at Young. He does have the ultimate.
Okay, is spotted. Nice hawk shot from JJ.
Oh. Comes out. Ooh, gonna miss again. Shochi's here. So is Tomio. You have the smite available for Disguise. Fake God leads the charge. Tomio looking to secure it, but Perry will get the smite secure. Still one gonna fall. Philip the first to fall at the hands of Meech. A second kill going over to Meech. It's JJ who gets torn apart by the chakrams of Meech and Disguised. Even though they lose the Dragon, they'll take 2 as the toll.
There's really no way for Cincinnati Fear to deal with this Nature's Grasp into hostile takeover combo we're seeing from DSG, as it held their entire front line in place for Meech to just rain hell upon. Dragon was yoinked by Perry, which will help as DSG are not on soul point, but I think DSG happy to take the gold that they have in their pockets and the gold they have in that traditional marksman in Meech that will enable them to outscale the rest of this game. As you can look at the gold graph, Meech are ahead of the rest of the competition. Exactly what DSG needs in this game if they want to take down.
Yeah, Meech is looking spectacular right now, but when has it looked spectacular? Even back on CLG Academy, he was paired up with Breezy. Even with the struggles that roster did have, that bottom lane was still fire. At the start of this season, we were kind of wondering how much of that do we attribute to Breezy. I think I think when it comes down to it, Meech does have the performance level to show that he can hang, and now Shochi trying to hang with 3 members of Toast right now. Uses the shadow. Deathmark comes out, but Young is privy to it and walks over to the clone. Takes down Shochi again.
I'm a little bit out on this set build, as I feel like, the Hydra's where it's at, man. That's... Shochi's gotta know something I don't. Good pick, though, from Young, as Silas can move to 5-0, as, oh boy, more picks coming in. Perry.
Moonlight Vigil right on to Perry.
Charm.
Perry still trying to get away, but Meech is too strong right now. Those autos really adding up. Down a jungler, Cincinnati Fear.
This Fear comp, again, no traditional marksman. DPS, they cannot compete with DSG. Not fight on even footing. And DSG, so easy for them to brute force things down with Maokai, who has that ultimate up so often now after level 11. Combo with the hostile takeover not even needed there. As Philip, you are out of mana, my friend. And that's going to be a flash being burned by Young off the Abscondum Zuck. So Cincinnati Fear went cooking with this comp Destructs, and unfortunately things got a little bit burned.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes you mess up on the recipes. It happens to the best of us. I'm sure Rafa has scolded you a few times, Cubby. Well,
never.
Give some lessons over to Cincinnati Fear. The way they've been trying to posture this up. I mean, the idea was there. It's just a lot of the executions they've been having, a lot of the missteps from even the mid lane and Shochi not getting some of those kills onto Young, where Young was able to outplay him. It's just been going wrong for Cincinnati Fear, but going oh so right for Toast.
These are rather solid. And again, I think a big difference in this game is the fact that Meech got ahead. This fellow's been so good for him this split. 5-2, going to move to 6-2. And, DSG... The difference between them and Cloud9, at least in roster, it's been the coach and then Young and Meech, these 2 young players stepping in. And I feel like they're on 2 of their most comfortable champs this game, in a setup where I feel like each champ can be successful. A lot of people have to go into Aphelios, and once you survive the laning phase, which is the most difficult part of this game for the Aphelios, things look really good for Meech. And young Silas has been very sound, so I think that's one thing that we'll have to look out for DSG moving forward, because it feels to me that Young at times can still fall behind to some of the other mid laners that we have in the laning phase in the league. Didn't see that this game on his comfortable champ, but I think moving into playoffs, definitely something to look out for if Young and Meech can step up a little bit in their performance. As these are 2 players we are looking to continue to grow and evolve. Definitely part of why they are in DSG's org and roster here, but still, I think that's kind of why they're in the middle of the standings, or just barely top 4 at the moment, because we haven't seen that growth we really wanted to see out of the 2 of them at times.
I mean, for the most part, I think Meech has been very steady, but I do echo that for Young more than anything else. Yeah. There are some consistency issues that we need to see worked out there, but Young able to throw out the ultimate. Oh, the hostile takeover does a bit of work right there for DSG to flip the switch and take the fight. Young and FakeGod looking to lead the charge. Slice and Dice might not be the best choice into Fear, because FakeGod getting a bit too low, has to pop that Dominus. Ooh, stun comes out from Perry. FakeGod still on the low end. Here comes Philip, hops right in. Now onto the flank comes Young, tries to get the encore. Philip quick with the leap strike to get out of it, but deep into enemy lines is Shochi. Gets taken down by Meech. 1-for-1 trade. Philip might be next. He got to do something quick. Puts up the counter strike, but too bad. Meech has his number. Meech looking for more members of Cincinnati Fear with low health bars is food for Meech. But they get away in time, and DSG sitting pretty, Cubby.
Tomio could long chase. He has his ult coming back up. Meech could honestly pick up more, but DSG, they're just going to take the inner turret, rotate over to the Dragon, as that was a very good fight from all members of DSG, but I think especially Young on the Silas. Got the first ult off, the zone him off the Baron. Got a beautiful Zanya's to survive some of the retaliation coming out of Fear, and then take another ult, as he had an encore of himself. Got 2 ults that fight on Silas. He's able to find some of the back half, as take a second look. This is after Young zoned everyone off. Fear, I mean, they're kiting back with Seraphine. You can see some of the power of this comp for Fear in the elongated fights when Seraphine's able to get so many spells off. Very beneficial for the Seraphine team. But Young finds a really nice angle here. I love this encore. I know Philip gets out of it, but just make sure they're able to continue to fight front to back with Meech. Gochi goes on the Zazel. Zazel's happy to trade his life for the Zed, as his hostile takeover and W was already used. And Meech just gets the free fire, as for a second here, could have been a Penta angle, as like after this, if there's a little bit more follow-up, Meech has so much damage at this point that Fear just couldn't really deal with him. And if Fear do not deal with Meech in these fights, see what he was able to do.
Yeah, that's a 9-2-3 Aphelios at the current moment with 4 items completed. This is beastly right now for Meech. This is where Aphelios wants to be, to take over these games. Even Perry can't really sustain a lot of the damage that's going to come out from Meech in some of these fights. You want him to be elongated. You want to take advantage of a lot of these cooldowns for Cincinnati Fear to find their success, but Meech is not going to allow that with how fast he can take away these health bars. And DSG not going to allow it with how good they are at pressing the issue. Locking down right onto Perry, but it's a bad situation for Tomio. Has to flash out to be able to stay alive, and Cincinnati Fear defend the turret.
This Renata pick's been really big for Zazel this game. It's stopping the Seraphine Deathball in its tracks with a hostile takeover. Combos really well with Nature's Grasp. And also, he's got a Mikhail, so able to get Tomio out of there as well after the flash. I really like this pick coming out of Zazel. I think it's been very valuable as the bot lane from DSG, but a real highlight this game.
Yeah, the spot lane's playing well. Playing very, very well. The caliber we know they can definitely reach. Again, this team was very hyped up. So much of the community when we saw the tier list coming out. You were one of the only ones who didn't put DSG into that first slot. You had a FlyQuest up there. Well, I want you to reflect right now. Where would you see DSG at the current moment?
Honestly, right where I had them. I feel like they're just outside of competing with TLC and FlyC at the moment. But they are the team, if any, that I expect to be able to reach that mantle given the players that they have. And I think we're seeing some of the growth. We know that Meech is good at the Aphelios, but I remember talking with Zazel very early in the split. He was talking about laning with Meech instead of Lost. He was like, Lost was so aggressive. I really just kind of got to, you know, play the map and have to play lane a lot. He's like, I'm doing some more teaching this time around. And to see them deal with this rather janky game in lane where so many flashes were burned early and they were able to actually turn it on the JJ when they got counterpicked. I think it's a nice sign of growth and a good sign moving forward for DSG as, again, looking for Young and Meech to continue to grow into their roles. We know that Meech is good at Felios, but still able to prove that again in this game as he dealt with quite a few curveballs coming out from Fear, especially in that early game, given how many flashes were burned. I thought he answered it really well. And he's been the big difference later, being that traditional marksman who has a lot of gold on his shoulders. Meech has been making great use of that as he's been safe and pumping out so much damage in these fights.
Yeah, Meech has been an absolute beast and still beasting it up with a lot of the DPS he brings for DSG into these 5v5s, into these team fights. Still going to be a while before we get something spawning back up, a minute 20 before Baron comes over on that top side, minute 30 before we get another Drake. And that could be Ocean Soul picked up by DSG, something that Cincinnati Fear will be keeping in mind. Again, they do like these elongated fights where they are able to poke out. Ocean Soul can negate some of that damage and that poke that Fear might look to set up for some of these future fights coming through. Right now, you're seeing that the issue is being pressed by Cincinnati Fear. They're trying to get some vision control of at least one side of the map to be able to react to what DSG are doing.
I think that for DSG, I know Baron spawns first, but I would almost like to see the sap set up on the bot side. I don't think that you can take Baron if you are Fear's comp. So I don't think DSG has to worry about a Baron. Like, Fear has to worry that Meech burns down the Baron. DSG do not have to worry that Fear burned down a Baron. So I would like to see them try to shift this setup into the bot side. As Fear trying to take as much of the wave as they can. You'll see Manui doing some nice zoning. If the Rylai's is completed on this Seraphine, that will be a really nice tool for Fear moving forward. Talked about so much about the range and the disadvantage that Fear has going into Meech and how comfortable he is in the melees. Rylai's on Seraphine makes a big difference, as that makes life really hard for Renekton and even this Silas. You see Shochi. Set build does some decent damage later. Serpent's Fane now completed, and Shochi. Oh, here we go.
Oh, here comes Fake God. Encore comes through.
Oh,
It's able to land
Shochi.
on Young forced to use the Hourglass. Still in the back lines. JJ trying to get out the crowd control, but there's not much damage really left in the fight for Cincinnati Fear. Fake God still on the hunt. Philip walks right into a sapling, and Shochi walks into the gator. Meech goes godlike.
Manui, the linchpin of the hopes of Fear in this composition, was taken down first in the fight. Now Philip, he's headed for the hills. Is Philip? How creative can we get here, bud?
Can we get something back? Ooh.
Nice tails.
Couldn't get it onto
Very
Azazel. Very nice to stop that Counter-Strike stun. Philip empty-handed. Shame right now because DSG 8K lead and they're looking for more.
The soul for DSG and a Baron to follow and the game to follow after that as DSG continue to put together the pieces in this composition, all really built around Meech going into this Seraphine. Seraphine's the key for Fear, but Meech and this Aphelios, it's been the key to beating the comp of Fear, as this Aphelios is pumping way too much damage out. No answer on the side of Fear as they have not been able to find them. For safety from Renata, I think they're very helpful this game. DSG trying to go up in the standings here. Desrex tried catch up a little bit to the ground that FlyQuest and TLC have put between them and DSG with an impressive week, which included a TLC 2-0 for DSG themselves.
Taking a look at this fight once again, it is beautifully played on the side of DSG. They get an inside flank without issue. The hostile takeover is still such a problem for Cincinnati Fear to have to deal with, and even when Shochi trying to get an angle, he flashes in at the same time. You got the Hourglass.
Yeah, it was really close for Manui. He just gets barely caught by a root, wasn't quite behind a teammate as he was trying to fire off that Encore from Fog, and once he eats that root, hostile takeover to follow, and this combo has been too damn good for the side of DSG. As Tony is going to take some damage that will be replenished by Ocean Soul as he gets plus 79 from first strike. Feels good, man. And DSG are going to continue to cruise to a victory, as this is a good look for them. I will say, I think DSG's also played some really aggressive early game comps. Not surprised given Young's champ pool and his affinity for melees, but this is a game where I think DSG were able to kind of use that strong top side to scale nicely in the bot side for Meech and DSG, and overall, what a sound look for them going up against Fear.
Now they look to close out. In every single lane, they're applying this pressure alongside the Turo Baron buff. Got Fake Odd in the bottom, Young in the top, and everyone else just pivoting around the mid lane. And this is going to come crumbling down quite soon for Cincinnati Fear unless they can get an answer. But there's not really that many answers left in the playbook when you're 12k behind, my dude. Ooh, mid lane under attack. Out comes the ultimate. They're looking for parry. Ruthless Predator goes on. A great encore for Minui, but it's not going to do much for Cincinnati Fear. Another stun from a Ruthless Predator, and parry gets dropped. The Gator eats board tonight and still looking for more as Philip, forced to use the stopwatch to try and stay alive, gets picked off by Meech in the back end.
Force gets through the counter strike as 2 fall for Fear, and now the 2 Nexus turrets about to fall. Tomio flashes in, he flashes air as he goes back to a minion. DSG finishing touches on one. Has been a nice top to bottom game coming out from them.
And for DSG, currently racing neck and neck with Wildcard, wanting to fight over to where FlyQuest and Team Liquid are. With this much of a lead, with this much of a performance, this is going to get you there. They'll take game number 1 against Cincinnati Fear.
Good Silas game for Young. Good Aphelios game for Meech. Seems like a winning formula to me, as the pieces around it do damn well to support it. Love that Nature's Grasp and Hostile Takeover combo to deal with the melee-heavy comp that Fear was showing early on. And the counter pick spot didn't end up working. It's a good look for Meech and Zeyzal in that laning phase. They got that one small advantage early when they were able to take down JJ, but that was answered back by Perry as he, visited bot. But from there, they were really able to stabilize and play that lane out really well in what is a counter matchup, given the Seraphine and Ashe into the Aphelios and the Renata. So a lot of props to Meech and Zeyzal. We've been looking for stronger laning phases out of Young and Meech specifically as the younger players. I think we saw a good example of that there, as Meech played very well that game.
I mean, I liked what I saw from everyone on Disguise. There were a lot of comfort
solo
picks.
kill, too.
Yeah.
Good laning. Good to see. Good for DSG.
Yeah, they had a lot of good comfort picks to really work with, and you can tell why those champions, they don't get through that often when they're in the hands of those members of Disguise, such as the Silas on Young, Phalios, Meech, even Fakeod and his Renekton. But off of that, we do got to take a moment to throw over to a short break. Want to thank one of our sponsors, but you've been hearing my voice thank it all day with the little read going on. I think we're tired of my voice. I want to hear Cubby's voice. Go ahead.
Where's okay, hold on. I wasn't prepped for this, Who knows? The LCS Challengers League is brought to you by Turo, the world's largest car sharing marketplace where you can book any car you want for just about any occasion. Forget about boring rental cars at Turo.com, and shout out to them for sponsoring LCS Challengers League. As Desrex, I'm just going to keep on running with this. We're getting back in 5 with a halftime show from Grapes. Don't go anywhere, as we have the Rally Cry halftime show coming to you soon.